13th August at 10 a.m.
Ma'am, I have
Yes,
an exam.
you have an exam on 13th
Yes, ma'am. 9:30.
at 9:30.
Yes, ma'am.
But actually, I declared the date in the last, okay, not maybe in this section. So what we can do now? So
14.
8 to 14, then I hope it will be okay.
Yes, ma'am. 14. Okay.
Okay.
From my side.
So the exam.
I have exam on 14.
You have exam on 14.
Yes, ma'am. At 9:30 a.m.
9:30.
Yes, ma'am. I have also exam.
Can we change the time?
No, I think 14 is better for
Ma'am, we can start at 8 a.m.
8
So,
a.m.
8 a.m.
At
or
8:30,
10:30.
10:30. Or what about 11?
No, it's better. 11.
11 is okay.
So the exam date is 14/8/21 and the exam will be started at 11 a.m. Okay. So what is the syllabus of your first term exam? From this book, I mean, we started the processor, which one? Pentium processor, right? And we discussed about this processor, or we complete almost 5 chapters, isn't it? Chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I think that I should include not more than 3 chapters in the midterm exam. Okay. So your midterm exam syllabus will be chapter 1. And from chapter 2, one topic is related to chapter 1. So from chapter 2, you just need to study only one topic that is related with the topic of chapter 1. And that topic's name is address, number of addresses. That is 0 address machine, 1 address machine, 2 address machine, and 3 address machine. And then chapter 3 and 4. Is that clear? Your midterm exam syllabus is chapter 1, 3, 4, and from chapter 2, only one topic you need to study, that is number of addresses, because it's related to chapter 1. Clear?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. So today we can have a review class as well as we can discuss about the question pattern, both for the written exam and for the final exam. So let us start with the first chapter, that is introduction of RISC or CISC processor. Okay. So in this chapter, mainly some basic things are included. That is, what is processor, or what are the 2 types of processor? One is RISC, another is CISC. What is the advantage or disadvantage of these 2 processor and their differences? And what is assembly language, right? And how to convert assembly language code into, this is not about conversion, that is some assembly language statement will be given and what will be its equivalent statement. Okay. And the next topic is some advantage and disadvantage of assembly language. And okay, you can skip this one, you can skip the typical applications. Okay, so from chapter 1, the topics are the difference between CISC or RISC processor, or what is actually CISC and RISC processor, what are the advantage and disadvantage of CISC and RISC processor. And the last topic is about assembly language, that what is assembly language, what is its advantage, disadvantage, and how to write the assembly language, or when some statement will be given in assembly language, how to convert it into C language. Is that clear? Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Clear, ma'am.
Okay. Then the next chapter is chapter 2. So from chapter 2, we just need to study only one topic, that is the number of addresses. So look at this slide. But please, I'll suggest you the book is uploaded, right? So you can take help from the book. So from this chapter, you just need to study the number of addresses. That is, what is 3 address machine and how the statement will be converted in 3 address machine. And the next one will be 2 address machine, 1 address machine and 0 address machine. So some statement will be given. That statement can be assembly language statement or C language statement. You have to convert it. Okay. So you have to convert it for 3 address machine or 2 address machine. And chapter 3 is about Pentium processor. So all the details are given here, but basically they included only the register part, right? So from this, and this is really important for the Viva exam also, right? So you need to know how many register this processor has, what is the width of the register, and then what are the category of the register, and how we can separately access them, or what will be the name of the register when you access them as 8-bit register, 16-bit register, or 32-bit register, and what is the name of the pointer and index registers, what is the application, or when we actually use those control register or segment register. Okay, you need to know the category of flag register also. And then the next topic is what is protected mode memory architecture and what is real mode memory architecture, right? And in the Viva exam, I can ask you which processor has the access or which processor operates on this 2 mode, right? There are 2 types of memory architecture. One is real mode and another is protected mode, right? And in 8086 microprocessor family or Intel microprocessor family, the first processor is 8086 and then 8088, 80286. So there are so many versions of microprocessor. So I can ask you which microprocessor operates on this 2 mode. So what will be the answer? If I ask you how many microprocessors operate on protected mode and real mode, so what will be the answer?
Ma'am, 80286 from 80286.
Very good. 80286, 80386, 80486, right? So we can say that all the processors which has more than 20, which has more than 20 bit in its physical address register, then look at this figure. What will be the answer? All the registers whose address bus width is more than 20 bit, they can operate on both real mode and memory mode architecture. That will be the answer. And the last topic of chapter 3. Okay, that is the last topic, that real mode architecture and protected mode architecture. So from chapter 3, good preparation for written exam as well as for Viva exam. Okay, so many questions can be asked from this chapter in your Viva exam. Yes, do you have any question?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, sure.
Ma'am, in real mode, ma'am, processor uses 16-bit or 20-bit, ma'am. And if you ask a question.
Sorry, what is the question?
Ma'am, in real mode, processor uses 16-bit register or 20-bit?
No, look. What is real mode architecture? Real mode memory architecture is, if it's your computer memory, then how many bytes will be accessed by that processor? That is the question. What is real? This is memory architecture. So it's related to how many memory bytes are accessible for that processor. Obviously, if it's 80286 processor, it's 16-bit processor. Okay, this is a different thing. The processor is 16-bit processor. Why it's 16-bit processor? Because it can read or it can send 16-bit data at a time. It's called 16-bit processor. But this topic is related to your, the address mode of 80286 processor. What is the width of address bus of 80286 processor? The width of address bus is 24-bit, and it's related to that memory mode, that memory architecture, Why? Because for any microprocessor, the accessible memory space is related to the number of bytes or number of bits in the address bus. So 80286, it's a 16-bit processor, but the width of address bus is 24 bits. That means for any memory location, it will assign 20-bit physical address. 24-bit physical address. That means this processor can access total 2 to the power 24, that is 16 megabyte memory location. And what is real mode memory architecture? In real mode, only 1 megabyte memory space can be accessible. But now this processor can access more than 1 megabyte. So how it can access the rest of the bytes, that is 15 megabyte, by using or by operating on real mode memory architecture. So this memory architecture, it's related to the width of the address bus. So you need to know what is the width of all these microprocessor. For Pentium processor, the width of address bus is 32-bit, which means that the accessible memory space is 2 to the power 32 equals to 4 gigabyte. Now look, it can access more than 1 megabyte. So only 1 megabyte, that space can be operated both on real mode and protected mode, but all the bytes from here, this is for 1 megabyte memory space, and all those bytes can be accessed in which mode? In protected mode memory architecture. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then the next chapter is chapter 4. So chapter 4 is overview of assembly language. So here just the syntax format is given, that how the assembly language statement should be written, or what is the way of defining the first field, second field, or third field of the assembly language instruction or statement, and how to create the symbol table. Okay, then the addressing mode are also given, and some operations that can be done on this processor. Okay, so from chapter 4, you cannot actually skip any topic from chapter 4. Clear? So chapter 4 is about assembly language instruction, that what is the format or what is the syntax of assembly language statement, or how many assembly language statements can be written. So there are 3 types of assembly language statement. One is instruction, then assembler directive, another is macros, right? And then how many operations can be done on this Pentium processor, CISC processor. So it can perform some arithmetic and logical operations. So the arithmetic operations are move, exchange, add, sub, multiplication, division, then compare, right? The logical operations are logical or, logical nor, sorry, XOR or not. And it can perform some additional operations such as shift operation and rotate operation. Clear? So now tell me which topics, in which topic you have problem, or which one I should discuss again. From chapter 2, 1, 3, 4. And also this one, number of addresses. Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so I hope you already identified, you already find out that in which topic you have problems, right? So you can tell me that which topic I should discuss again.
Ma'am, how Pentium processor works with stack?
Works with stack.
Stack, yes. Stack segment.
But I didn't include that chapter in your midterm syllabus. But if you want, I can discuss it, but I didn't include chapter 5 in the syllabus.
Okay, ma'am.
I thought if I add it, then the number of chapter will be 4. That's why I didn't add it. But if you want, I can discuss it. What about the others? Hello? Do you want me to discuss that topic, which is not included in your midterm exam? But if you want, I can discuss that topic.
Direct addressing mode and indirect addressing mode, if you please discuss.
Okay, direct addressing mode and indirect addressing mode. That is really important topic. Okay, so what is addressing mode? Addressing mode is when the processor is going to execute any task. At first, it will collect the instruction as well as the data, that is the operand. Okay, so after collecting the instruction, the next step is it needs to find out the data. So the instruction it will receive, from that instruction or after decoding it, it will find out two parts. One is its instruction, another is the address of the operand. From that instruction, it's going to find out the address of the instruction, that is where the data is actually stored. The location of the address, that is called addressing mode. It needs to find out where the data is stored. Okay, so now the data can be stored where inside the register. So when the data is stored inside the register, that addressing mode is called register addressing mode, and the data can be a part of instruction. That means without declaring it in your data segment, you can directly add that constant as a part of the instruction. That is called immediate addressing mode. Right, so what is the example of register addressing mode? Here, if the opcode is add, the destination operand and the source operand will be some register, right? So the destination operand is EAX and the source operand is BAX. That means the processor is going to find out the data in where this accumulated register and the base register. So what is immediate addressing mode? Now in this addressing mode, one operand, the location of one data can be register or it can be memory, right? But another operand should be a constant. So if the instruction is add EAX 10, so this instruction should be written inside the code segment. That means it's an instruction, and now one operand is part of the instruction. This is called immediate addressing mode. And the next one is memory addressing mode. So when the data will be declared inside the data segment, that is called memory addressing mode. That means the data is stored inside the computer memory. So this memory addressing mode can be divided into two parts. One is called, what is the name of first one? Direct memory addressing mode. And the second type is indirect memory addressing mode. So what is the difference between direct addressing mode and indirect addressing mode? So memory addressing mode, that is in this data segment, we are going to define, we are going to declare some variables. So A is one variable, it's a byte variable, and it has how many characters? It's an array variable with 4 characters. So E and D, these are 3 alphabets and a special symbol. Another variable is D, and it's word variable. It has only one data, that is 17. C is another variable with a single character, and it's a byte variable. Another variable is D, it's double word type variable, and it's an array variable. So these are the content 10H, 20H. So now we declared how many variables? Total 4 variables. And from the pseudo opcode, we know that it's a byte variable. And look at the initial value. In the initial value, this is a string. That means A is an array variable. And B is word variable because the pseudo opcode is DW. And only one initial value is given. So B is a single variable. And then next variable is a byte variable, and only one character is given as initial value, so it's a single variable. And D, the number of initial value is more than 1, so it's an array variable. Okay, so now in direct memory addressing mode, how the processor is going to find out the data END colon or 17A or 10H and 20H. When we declare the variable, at that time, we are actually allocating some memory spaces, right? So how many memory spaces we are allocating for all those 4 variables? Suppose this is our memory location, and we know that for storing the data inside the register, because the data segment register is a 16-bit register, we use memory segmentation. Okay, so this is our memory. Suppose we are using the first segment, that is 0000H. If we convert it into binary, we will get total 16 binary bit as the address of data segment register. But here now we are using hexadecimal number. This is the number of the segment. So when the processor is going to operate on the data, at first it needs to find out the location of the data. So from the data segment register, it's going to collect the segment number, that is 0000H. Inside this segment, all the data are stored. There can be some other segment, 0001, 0002, and each segment has how many maximum it can has how many bytes? 64 kilobyte memory location, right? So inside this segment, there can be more 64 kilobytes, isn't it? How many bytes are here? 64 kilobytes, right? So now the processor needs to find out the location of all these 4 variables. So from the segment number, now it knows that the data are stored inside the segment 0000H, but what is the exact location of this variable A, B, C, or D? So these are bytes, and each byte inside the segment is called offset. And offset is also a 16-bit number, so we can represent them as 4-digit hexadecimal number. So this is the first byte or the first offset. So its address is 0000H. And for this offset, the address is 0001H, or in decimal, the address is 0, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So these are the address of the byte or offset. Okay. So where these data will be stored, A, or how the processor is going to find out the location of the data, that is how it's going to find out the offset number from the symbol table, isn't it? When the variable will be declared, after that the assembler will create a symbol table. Now what is symbol table? It's created for counting the offset number, right? So what is the way of creating the symbol table? There will be 2 columns, one for listing all the name of the variable, and here we are going to add the offset number. So this is our symbol table. So how many variables are declared? Total 4 variables are declared, A, B, C, and D. So what is the offset number of A? Which means that inside this segment 000H, where we can find the variable A. Okay, so this is the first variable. So there is no other variable before A. That's why its offset number is 0. That means still we didn't assign any memory location to any other variable. That's why the offset number of A is 0, which means that look at the address. The address is 0000H, or in decimal, the address is 0. So this byte is allocated for the variable A. Okay, so look. In this memory addressing mode, we can only find out what is the address of the first element of any variable. The variable can be a single variable or it can be an array variable, but in direct addressing mode, we don't know what is the offset address of the second element of the array variable or third element of the array variable. So the offset address of A is 0. That means in this location, you're going to find out A. So now the next element is B. What will be its offset value? So look at this data segment. Here, A is array variable and it has 4 elements. That means we need to allocate how many bytes for that variable A? Total 4 bytes. So actually 4 bytes are allocated for A. Now when you start counting now you want to find out what is the offset number of B. At that time, we just have to find out how many bytes are allocated for all the preceding variable of B. So B has only one preceding variable A, and 4 bytes are allocated for that variable, which means that the offset address of B will be 4, isn't it? So now all these 4 bytes, 0, 1, 2, 3, these 4 bytes are reserved for the variable A. And this one, okay, here we can write the address 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. These are decimal value. 6, 7, 8, 9. So the offset number of B is 4. Okay, so here the data B is stored. Okay, again, we don't know whether it is array variable or single variable, but look at the data segment. Is it array variable? No, it has only one initial value, but it's a word variable. So 2 bytes will be allocated for B. Okay, but from symbol table, we cannot find out whether it's an array variable or single variable. So total 2 bytes are allocated for the variable B. Now the next one is C. So there are 2 preceding variable and total 6 bytes are allocated. So what will be the offset number of C? The offset number will be 6, isn't it? That means this is the location of the next variable, that is C. Okay, so it's a byte variable. So total 1 byte will be allocated because it's a single variable. So this is the location of the variable C. Now the next variable is D. What will be its offset number? Total 7 bytes are allocated. That is the location from 0 to 6 are allocated for the variable A, B, and C. So for D, the offset number will be 7. So this is the starting address of the variable D, and it's a double word type variable. It's also array variable, right? So total 4 bytes are needed for the variable D. So all the address from 7 to 14, 11, 12, 13, 14. So these 8 bytes are reserved for the variable D. Is it clear?
Yes,
Is it, so is
Yes,
it
ma'am.
addressing mode or indirect addressing mode? It's direct addressing mode. And what is the advantage of direct addressing mode? In this addressing mode, the processor collects the offset number from the symbol table. And the disadvantage is, from this symbol table, the processor can collect only the starting address of any variable. If it's a single variable, then it's okay. It has only one element, so that starting address will be the address of that one element. But if it's array variable, then it will be difficult to find out all the location, all the offset address of all the elements. That's why we need indirect addressing mode. So what is indirect addressing mode? In this addressing mode, the processor is not going to use the symbol table. Instead of using symbol table, now it will store the offset number inside some general purpose register. So how it's going to store the offset number? Suppose for this 4 variable, A, B, C, and D. So among those 4 variables, for how many variables we need actually indirect addressing mode? Only for the array variable, that is for A and D. Okay, so at first we can take that variable D. Okay, so we need to use indirect memory addressing mode for D. So now D is the variable name and its pseudo opcode or directive is double word, and 2 elements of these 10H and 20H. So these are 2 hexadecimal number. Okay, so how we can store the offset number inside the accumulator register? Suppose we are going to use the accumulator register EAX or EBX. Okay, so at first we'll copy the address of this variable D here. So what is the address of the variable D? What is the address of D? The offset address of D is 7, isn't it? Hello, we already prepared the symbol table. Look, for A, we total 4 bytes. That is the address, offset address from 0 to 3. For B, we need the memory location with address 4. For C, 5. Sorry, here we need the addresses 0 to 3. For B, the address is 4. For C, 5. Okay, for D, the offset address is 6. Okay. So now we are going to copy that address of the variable D here in this accumulator register. So what will be the instruction? The instruction will be move. Okay, so this is the first step. We are going to copy the offset address of the variable inside this general purpose register. What will be the next step? Look, we need to find out what is the offset number of 10H and 20H. So for 10H, the offset number, if the offset number is C, that means for the second element, the offset number will be 10, isn't it? Look, this D is a double word type variable. That means for each element, we need total 4 bytes. So for storing 10H, we need all the memory location from 6 to 9. For 20H, we need 4 bytes with the address 10 to 13. Isn't it? Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Yes.
when we use this instruction, after executing it, what will be the value of EAX? What is the offset address of EAX? What is the address of EAX?
Ma'am, 6.
Very good, 6. Look, in this instruction, we are copying the address of D. What is the address of D? Obviously, this one, 6. Right? The starting address is 6. So we are going to copy it where in this accumulator register. So now the offset address of EAX is 6, right? And it's the address of the first element. That's why we're going to copy, we're going to store the data of the first element of D, that is 10H, inside this extended accumulator register. So this third bracket indicates to the value of EAX. When the address of EAX is 6, at that time, the value of EAX register is 10X, which means that in this location, we are going to find out the data 10H. So we are going to copy the value 10H here. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now from this step, we are going to find out the address of the first location, sorry, the address of the first element of this variable D. So when EAX equals to 6, the value 10H is going to be found, okay? Now the variable D has another element. So what will be the offset address of 20H? From the symbol table, we can't easily find it out. So here in indirect addressing mode, we are going to treat this accumulator register as a counter. That means we are going to increase the value of the offset address of EAX register. How? Look at the CO code. D is a double word type variable, so total 4 bytes are needed for the first element. So now we are going to increase the address of EAX register by 4. The instruction will be add EAX4. So why we are adding 4? Because it's a double word. Okay, so after adding 4 with the previous offset address of EAX, what will be the new value? What is the new value? Very good. Previously, the value of EAX register was 6. After adding 4, now its value is 10. Okay, so when EAX equals to 10, we are going to store the second element inside that register. So our next instruction will be move. So now inside this register, we are going to store the second element, that is 20H. So in this way, we can store all the elements inside the accumulator register. We just have to treat them as counter. We just have to increase the address number, offset address, then we can store all the elements. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
This is the direct addressing mode and the indirect addressing mode of processor. So I hope now this topic is clear to you. Okay, so what's next? Can you translate any statement into 2 address machine or 3 address machine? Hello? Can you translate the statement into 2 address machine and 3 address machine? Suppose the statement is B equals to C into D plus A minus B plus B. So this is a statement, assignment statement. Okay. So can you translate it into assembly language statement? This is a high level language statement. Suppose this language is written, sorry, this statement is written using C language. Okay. Now you have to translate it in assembly language statement for both 2 address processor and 3 address processor. Can you do it? Two address processor, that means the processor is Pentium processor. 3 address processor, that means it's MIPS processor or RISC processor. In 2 address processor, the number of operands will be 2, and in 3 address processor, the number of operands will be 3. So how this statement C into D plus A minus B plus B will be written in assembly language statement? Okay, forget about the parentheses. So what will be the first instruction?
Multiple.
Multiple.
Multiplication. Okay, so if it's for 2 address machine, then what will be the first instruction for 2 address machine?
Load.
Load T comma C.
Load T comma C. Very good. So at first we're going to store this data. Look, the 2 address processor, that is the Pentium processor, any CISC processor can operate on both the register and the memory location. Okay, so we can assume that T is a memory location and C, the data is stored inside that memory location. Now the next address will be, sorry, the next opcode will be MULT for multiplication operation because it has the highest precedence level, right? And in this 2 address machine, we are going to use only 2 address. One is the destination address, another is source address. So now our destination address will be T and it's 1 source address, and the next address will be D. Look, we are going to execute this part of the statement C into D, and C is already stored inside this memory location T. So we are going to collect C from this memory location, and after that we are going to multiply it with which operand? D, right? So this is C into D. Then what will be the next instruction? The next instruction will be for addition operation. So the next opcode is add, and our destination operand is T, and the source operand is A. So after this operation now, we are going to have the data C into D plus A. Okay. The next instruction will be a subtraction. This opcode is sub T and B. Okay. So now the data will be C into D plus A minus B. After that, we need one addition operation. So for this addition operation, the opcode will be add and the operand is B. Okay. Or is there any way to write or this instruction? Can we change the destination address and the source address? Look at your assignment statement. In this statement, the destination address is B, not T. So our next instruction can be add B and T. We can now treat T as our source operand. Okay, so here from T, we are going to collect C into D plus A minus B, and we are going to B with that data. After that, the whole result will be stored inside this memory location. So the result will be C into D plus A minus B plus B. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is for 2 address machine. Now can you write the same instructions for 3 address machine?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay, so
ma'am.
write.
Ma'am, done.
Very good. So what is the first instruction?
Ma'am, multiplication D, comma, C, comma, D. T, comma, C, comma, D.
Then
Then add T, comma, A. Then sub T, comma, B.
please wait a second. What is the first instruction? Multiplication.
Yes, ma'am. Mult T, comma, C, comma, D.
T, comma, C, comma, T. Is it correct? Is it correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Very good. So here, the result C into D going to be stored inside the register T. It's a 3, we are using a 3 address processor here. So we can assume that the data will be stored inside this register T. So we can add a comment that's T equals to C into D. What is the next instruction?
Add T, comma, C, comma, A.
T, comma,
T, comma, A.
T, comma, very good. Okay, so here the comment will be T equals to C into D plus A. Okay, so now this T is our destination register and the data stored in it is C into D and A will be added with that data. So C into D plus A, very good. And the next instruction is sub, right? One, the destination operand is T, one source operand is T, another is B. So we can add this comment T equals to C into D plus A minus B. And the next instruction will be
Add B, comma, T.
B, comma, T. Very good. So here the result is B equals to C into D plus A minus B plus B. Very good. So our next 2 classes will be also review class. So I'll suggest you please try to find out your problems and we can solve those problems in our next 2 classes. Okay, thank you so much.